Well, hello, and thanks for watching another episode of ARFCOM News, your twice-weekly dose of the finest 2A propaganda. Y'all remember Dexter Taylor? He's the political prisoner being held by the state of New York because the federal government spied on his purchase history and ratted him out to the state of New York. He didn't break any federal laws, and the state laws he did violate are blatantly unconstitutional. I struggle to articulate how utterly abhorrent it was for the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to report him to the locals in total disregard of his Fourth Amendment rights, not to mention his Second Amendment rights. But this seems to be a pattern in New York. Another man was just arrested in Oswego for daring to possess guns deemed to be naughty in the side of New York.
Call me Snake.
Now, we can't be certain if this guy was ratted out by the feds also, because the state trooper's press release just coyly says they were investigating another matter. But he wasn't accused of any other crimes, so we can kind of connect the dots. I hope you'll forgive me for belaboring the point, but the state sent armed men to forcibly imprison a peaceful man who had hurt nobody. His only purported crime is a constitutionally protected activity, and the manner the state came to know about his so-called crimes reeks to high hell of government surveillance. Brothers, this is the cyberpunk dystopia we were warned about.
I hear they got you locked into some fantasy dystopia thing.
But before I tell you what we can do about it, I have to remind you it would be impossible for us to produce quality 2A propaganda without sponsors. So let's pay some bills. Today's video is sponsored by Franklin Armory, those facilitators of freedom who have now made it easier to go binary for fewer Benjamins. Y'all see what I did there? Because Franklin Benjamins. Of course, YouTube won't let me tell you how many Mr. Franklins you can save, so you'll have to find out for yourself, but the discounts are deep for Franklin's end-of-year clearance on legacy binaries. And by Vortex, their new line of Defender red dots feature a constant on emitter with no flicker and shake awake so it is always ready. The Defender CCW is impressively compact for daily carry, the ST is a bit larger, and the XL is an absolute beast with one of the largest windows available on a micro red dot. And by TNVC. In case you haven't noticed, it's dark half the time on this planet, so unless you got shiny eyes like Riddick, you're gonna need TNVC so you can keep tabs on Man Bear Pig while he's out there shooting dice with the Wendigos and Skinwalkers in your front yard. First of all, y'all live in an occupied territory need to up your tradecraft game and get a lot more paranoid. If you're smart enough to set up a squirter machine, you're smart enough to use a VPN, PO box, crypto, and I don't know, be discreet.
We talked about it.
I mean, it's not Pokemon. The government literally can't catch them all, but don't be one of the ones who does get caught. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to engage in victim blaming here. The people getting abused by the state are not the ones at fault here. That said, stop posting your crimes on Instagram.
No one needs to know that.
The real answer to what we need to do to start moving the needle is that we need to relentlessly bully the incoming Trump regime. Specifically, we should target the Justice Department and demand they investigate blatant violations of constitutional rights. Bruin is settled law, and the states have had more than enough time to come into compliance. Failures to issue carry permits are inexcusable. Prosecuting the mere possession of a gun inside one's home is inexcusable. The DOJ should investigate, file lawsuits, and issue consent decrees where appropriate. How do we get them to do that, though? The same way you would if some states started, arresting Muslims for praying in a park or some other obviously unconstitutional nonsense. You go to the DOJ website and you report a civil rights violation. I'll drop a link down there in the doobly-doo for this page. It will allow you to create an anonymous report.
It's important to let the dice know how you feel about it.
But let's be real, unless you're filling out the form using a laptop you bought with cash at a pawn shop on McDonald's Wi-Fi from the parking lot, we'll go ahead and take that whole anonymous thing with a grain of salt. If you don't know of any civil rights violations happening in your state, I submit that you might not be looking closely enough, but feel free to report the more severe violations you know of in the more authoritarian states like California and Massachusetts. Now, of course, for this to work, we have to keep spamming them with complaints. What other ways can you think of to induce the federal government to finally do its job defending constitutional rights? I'd like to hear your ideas down below. Y'all, I'm sorry. I was gonna write a joke for this next segment, like maybe something involving Tyrone Biggums, but be perfectly honest, I can't top this, so I'll just read the headline. San Quentin program targeting root causes of gun addiction celebrates first graduation.
It's gotta get in here. It's gonna fucking change you.
It is every bit as insane as it sounds. So basically, this is an AA clone for inmates at San Quentin, where they get to pretend the violent things they did are really not their fault because they were addicted to guns. None of us here in this room are mass shooters, said the 46-year-old founder who was doing 34 years for attempted murder. Statistically, the odds are really good that a few of the 75 violent criminals he was addressing are in fact mass shooters. As you folks know full well, the overwhelming majority of mass shooters are not actually the lone wolf thing that the legacy media tries to promote all the time. Most of them are gang-related shootings that happen at like block parties and stuff. And yeah, many of the people in prison for shootings are therefore mass shootings because they're defined as any shooting where 4 or more people are hurt or killed. In all seriousness, any program that expects people to be open and honest, to share their experiences and outcomes, and to be intentional in their thought is likely to produce positive results, and I hope these folks get some healing and turn into better people. There are a lot worse ways they could be spending their time in prison. And now for your moment of Zen. Hey friend, do you like pews and pew-related things? Would you like to help us keep delivering you pure American pew propaganda? We literally couldn't pay the bills without our sponsors, so do us a solid and get yourself something nice from them. You deserve it. I love you.